I'm wrecking the table here.
Hi, Chris. We on?
She gave the thumbs up around the screen.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. All
right.
good.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Jim DePalma here with Mr. John Resso for our second webinar of our winter series. Hey, John, how are you?
Living a dream, Jim. Living a dream.
I wish you guys could hear our discussions beforehand. Animated and intense, but they're all good. So, following along with our webinar series, we're talking about high efficiency equipment. We started last week with how do we sell high efficiency equipment. When we had our roundtable, we were requested, somebody wanted, actually not somebody, a couple of people wanted to know, we need help in selling this equipment. So kind of following along with that last class, we're talking about NTI and Centrotherm boilers. No, NTI boilers and Centrotherm venting. Oh man, senior moments. And we wanted to discuss with you today, obviously, what these components are about, what this equipment is about. I still want to keep that how to sell that in there so you guys can get the most out of these jobs that you sell, and you can give your customers the efficiency that they're looking for. Everybody knows that these boilers have the potential of being 90 to 95%, but we have to get them there.
Potential.
Potential. That is my key word. That is my 2023 word, potential.
Yeah.
How do we get it there?
Yeah.
So we're going to have a discussion about that today. I will please beg you to put in questions, disagree with us, question us as to why, but this is important because this would be the most comfortable, high efficiency type of product I think most contractors would be looking at.
Probably the most common. They've, probably the majority of the guys have touched something in this condensing boiler realm.
Right.
And we really want to just touch on how are we applying it, right? We always preach right appliance for the application.
Yep.
Well, what are those key items? How do we identify what's the right appliance? What are we going to look for? That's kind of what we're going to, talk through today.
Right.
So if anyone hasn't done it before, on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a question box. Feel free to go in there, click on it, type into your question. Be happy to answer it. Yeah, throughout the whole thing. Don't be bashful. We won't announce your name. So
everybody's John Smith.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get this going. So your customer said to you, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I know you put in condensing boilers. It says on your truck, or you've advertised that you do high efficiency equipment, because again, that's what our winter webinar series is all about. And the customer says, I need you to help me make my system more efficient. So I'm not putting you on the spot, but John's got extensive boiler experience in his career. What would be the first thing that you would do when you're out there with Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm dying here too. Number one is I need to understand how are they heating their home. I always call it heat emitters. What are the heat emitters? Do the heat emitters, will they work well with the condensing product? Are we going to keep that boiler at a low enough temperature to make it condense so we can achieve those high numbers that they're seeing, on the internet or wherever they're hearing this information? You can get, 95 to 98% efficiency out of a condensing boiler, which you can. But that's all temperature driven, right? We need to capture as much condensate from that unit as possible in order to capitalize on the maximum efficiency of this product. So NTI has been in the condensing boiler world since around 2002-ish for the most part. One of the first ones out there with condensing product. So they know the game. They do not make a boiler that's not condensing. They do make an oil product, but that's not condensing. But on the gas side, everything is condensing. So, we partnered up with NTI several years ago, and we've been preaching since that point, right appliance for the application. What do we mean by that? Well, if I walk into a house and I go down and look at the old boiler and the aquastat is set to 200 degrees, I need to understand why. Why is that set to 200 degrees? So number one is heat loss calculation, and doesn't matter to me,
That's right.
What we're doing. I don't care if it's air, water, air to water, air to air, boiler systems, you name it, it doesn't matter to me. This old method of, stand across the street and that's a 4-section boiler, that's a thing of the past.
Now, if anybody's been on our webinar series at all for the past bunch of years, how many, 3 years now?
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
Have been in any of our live training, because we do a lot of live hydronic training. Have been to our, today's hydronics, our advanced 4-week. We have pounded into everybody heat loss, heat loss, heat loss. If you've been to any of the sales classes I've done, heat loss is your greatest sales tool, because now you know what the house needs or the building needs. You need to know what's going on there. All right. We can change plenty of cast iron, put in these products, right? These condensing boilers. And just because of what it is and basic setup, they will get more efficiency, but they're not going to get what we're really driving for.
Right. The potential's there. I mean,
Right.
I've seen it go both ways, where you put this in and it costs you more than it did with the cast iron. So,
Right.
We just need to make sure it's the right appliance for the application, and heat load calculation is number one. So I would say the majority of the boilers that are installed today are probably oversized, with another good portion of them are grossly oversized. So that may play into your favor, right? We always have this conversation. What does the heat emitters look like? So if I have a boiler that's, let's say, 40% oversized, the hope is that my heat emitters are also 40% oversized. In addition
Or
to
more.
that, or more.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we hope that the homeowner has done something to the envelope of the home
Right.
to make it more efficient. So now the additional, let's call it baseboard, the additional baseboard plays right into our wheelhouse of selling a condensing product. And now no longer do we have to run at 180 degrees. We can bring that down, let this get into its comfort zone, which is condensing, which is long, low input runs, where it's just going to, pull the efficiency out of those flue gases, turn them into that condensation, and keep that energy in the home.
Right. So when we do our live trainings, when you're in a room with us, we ask you guys a lot of questions. So please type in. If this is new to you, you may not know, but for the veterans that have been with us, please type in so we know everybody's on the same page with us. When is the start? What temperature on the return water do you need in order to enter the condensing mode? And what return water temperature do you need for these types of boilers to be in the super high efficiency, to be that 90-95%? Because that's critical. What John just mentioned to you is critical. It is based on temperature, and you got to see where where you can get the equipment to get the most efficiency. So type it in. Let us know. Chris will let us know as we continue on here. So, all right. I'm sorry.
No. While they're doing that, let's just talk about, you walk into a house. What are the heat emitter options here, right? What are we looking at? Most common baseboard.
Baseboard, yeah.
Could be an air handler, right?
Yep.
Hydro system.
Right.
Could be radiant. Could be convectors. All those radiators. You got a bunch of different options there. And out of all those options, the number one option that would really spark, oh my God, I got to check this out more, would be a hydrocoil.
Correct.
Because an older series hydrocoil would have to run hotter temperatures through it in order to satisfy the heat demand within that space. And they're not normally grossly oversized. They might be oversized by a little bit, but normally they're not oversized. The heating is sized correctly, and the air conditioning comes in a little less if they have an A coil on it. So the minute I walk in there and there's an air handler in the attic, there's an air handler in the basement with a hydrocoil on it that runs off of my boiler system, the existing boiler system, that's a red flag to me. And that starts to really get me to question, what temperature do I truly need to support the amount of heat energy I need in the upstairs? What temperature do I truly need to support the heat energy I need downstairs? And that takes me to the next conversation. Is this a condensing boiler application, or is this a traditional cast iron boiler type application?
Right.
Will this work there? Sure it will. Are these installed there? Yes, they are. You're just not going to get the optimum efficiency, so don't promise the end user that you're going to be running at 95, 97, 98% efficiency if you're running this boiler at 190, or any other condensing boiler, not just the one behind me. So that's our industry. So that's the one that throws the biggest red flag up to me. Everything else that we talked about there, it's all a matter of sizing and how much baseboard is in the space. What is the BTU capability of my cast iron? And then I can look at those heat emitters and see at lower temperatures, what am I going to get out of that unit? And will that support the energy we need in the space?
Right. So, all right, we're preaching to do that heat loss. If I'm putting my salesman hat right on, I'm going to tell Mr. and Mrs. Smith I'm going to do this because this is what's going to make me stand out. No block loads, gentlemen and ladies. It has to be a room by room. Has to be a room by room.
Right.
Block load will not get you anywhere.
Block load will get you the load of the home,
Right.
but now we need to make people comfortable in that space. So that means room to room.
Right. And what John's alluding to with these lower temperature type of systems, our number one goal is to deliver comfort to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Our number one goal is that if they've been exposed to older technology for a while and are used to how it feels, that blast of heat, this system's going to feel different. We may satisfy the thermostat, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith may not be realizing that everything is okay. It doesn't feel the same.
Right.
So that education, letting that customer know, how you're going to get that efficiency. Remember, they want it. Okay, fine. Educate them on how we're going to get there. Right.
Yeah. They're used to everyone's used to the noise that their home makes. Right. So, yeah, exactly. Right. So we take out that, cast iron boiler that they're used to hearing fire off, and then they hear the water swishing through the pipes, and the hole wasn't drilled large enough by the baseboard, so it's creaking like crazy. When we put these in, if we run an outdoor reset curve, a lot of those noises are reduced dramatically. So
Right.
automatically in the homeowner's head, the heating system's not operating properly. I'm not hearing the noises that I used to hear. But reality is you can still keep them comfortable in their space at the temperature that they want.
Sure. So this webinar couldn't come at a better time because we just had Armageddon this past weekend.
Did we ever? Yeah.
Freaking cold.
Yeah.
And John's upstate New York. I'm northern New Jersey. Other people in the room with us today, Chris and Brett, they're down here more in central Jersey. So we saw anywhere from 8 degrees to 3 degrees to 0 degrees to minus degrees.
Yeah.
So, we have to make sure that these systems can handle it. But in reality, we didn't stay at those temperatures all day long. We didn't stay at those temperatures all day. We were at those temperatures for a few hours, really.
Yeah. So if you were designing a system, you're going to design here in New Jersey, 14 degrees outside will be 70 degrees inside. That's your BTU calculation. If you drop below 14 degrees, you may lose a degree or two inside the home.
Right.
Where I am, we designed for 0 degrees. And 0 degrees outside, 70 degrees inside. Now, I was about 9 degrees below design. So if someone were to call me, which I got plenty of phone calls on Saturday, I would just say, yeah, you're not going to maintain 70. The boiler realistically should be running full out, never shutting off. Your heat pump should be running. Your zone valve should be open, whatever type of system you have. That is design day, which we're there 2 to 3% of the year. And Saturday was an example of that. So we're not saying undersize anything, but we're also not saying pile on another 75, 80,000 BTU because you can't.
Right. Because we are saying to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm going to give you high efficiency.
Right.
Right. So in this world, short little bursts of burn is not what we want.
Right.
Long burns are what we want.
Yeah.
And with the Armageddon we saw on Friday night into Saturday, everybody should have had long burns.
Yeah.
And, so maybe the house dipped a degree, but come on, people, nobody's going to die.
No. And we want cruise control.
Right.
We want cruise control. Think of your car. We want cruise control of these boilers, low inputs for long periods of time, just trickling in the BTU that we need, that we're running around through the house and dumping off at all the train stops, which is each room, right? That copper loop of baseboard is the rail. The boiler's the locomotive, circulator moves it, and then we're just dumping the BTU off in the spaces based on what that room needs and the amount of baseboard in that space. We're leaving that BTU behind to keep that person comfortable. So if we do that and we calculate our temperatures properly and look at our outdoor reset curve properly, everyone will be extremely comfortable. But we always get the question that Jimmy alluded to earlier, they're not hearing the noises. They don't even know if the boiler's on anymore. These things all run so quietly. So
it doesn't feel the same.
Doesn't feel the same, right? You don't get that massive 180, 190 degree water flowing through the radiator where it's kicking off all this heat. We're just getting a constant, steady flow, maybe 150, 160 degree water and we're getting heat into the space. Well, on a day like Saturday, with NTI, we have a boost built in there where we'll automatically react to what's going on in the home, in addition to outside of the home.
Right, right. So if the boiler has sensed that it's taken a long burn, longer than normal, and to reach set point, dissatisfied with that, then it's going to start upping the temperature. And every next call for heat, that temperature is now the new target. And as the day progresses, as we're starting to hit that target sooner, then it starts to automatically back off 1 degree, 1 degree,
Right.
1 degree, knowing that it doesn't have to go that high anymore.
Right, so I'll just use my fingers as a curve. If we had a curve that looked like this, and it was Saturday, and we're running here, and it never satisfies, this boiler's smart enough to elevate it, let's say 10 degrees, and it may elevate it another 10 degrees. And then after, the sun came up, and it was about, 4 or 5 hours later, where we creeped up at my house to about 16 as a high for the day, this may have started to back itself back down to its
Right.
original curve, which would satisfy the home.
Right.
So that's automatic. So if anyone is not familiar with a boost mode, that's what this boiler has a capability of doing. Also built into the control, I know a lot of guys don't like to use the outdoor reset, but that's really where the efficiency comes from on this style of boiler. With the NTIs, you do have the ability to hook into a Wi-Fi, so you can use Google Weather as your gauge of outdoor temperature. You don't have to run a wire to the northwest corner or put it in, on the sunny side of the house, which throws your curve off all year round. So you don't have to worry about that. You can dial this right into Google Weather, and it'll have the real field temperature, and the boiler will adjust based on that. So
Right.
that's a big advantage with this product.
Huge advantage. We know people that have this product, this boiler installed, and they are working off of the internet weather. And the accuracy is phenomenal. The comfort level is phenomenal.
Right.
All right. So, guys and ladies, if you're here, please, you have to tell your customer these things. Let them know. They're counting on you to be that energy expert and that comfort expert. All right. I'm going to keep circling back to I'm delivering high efficiency. I want to let them know what I'm capable of doing or what the product's capable of doing after we've interviewed them and after we've figured out if this is the right appliance for the right application.
Yeah, and there's a question up there which we'll incorporate into this. So, we talked about that modulation factor. So this boiler behind us, the TRX, has 11-to-1 turn down rate. So, you could get huge turn down rates. So
85
always,
will bring down it to 9,500.
yeah, so just look at your smallest zone when you're sizing these boilers to make sure they're not oversized. And you want to make sure that your turn down rate somewhat matches your smallest zone. And then you obviously have to make sure that your high end of your boiler matches your total BTU. If you're not matching it on the lower end, this is where we normally recognize some issues with condensing products. If you're not able to get down to relatively close to the bottom end of what the boiler can turn down to, that's when you may want to think about using possibly a buffer tank or something along those lines to take up for those micro zones where you can't turn the boiler down far enough for that.
Right. So trust me when I say this. Oh my God, the salesman said trust me, right?
Yeah, right.
We're good at this. If you have questions when you're out there in the field and you're not sure, do you need help in this regard, reach out to us. This is what we do. All right, and we're happy to help out. All right, Chris is showing us what.
Yeah, I got the one there. The other one says, wouldn't a higher temperature turn down rate keep efficiency up in a low load conditions? If you're running off with the outdoor reset, yeah, that will play into effect. That will definitely be part of it. I think I understand that question. So yes, the boiler will keep itself down to a temperature that it's targeting based on outdoor reset temperature, which is calculated based on your indoor conditions and outdoor conditions. And you need to make sure you have enough BTU within the space to support the load of the home, let's say at 150, when it might be 20 degrees out. you know, and then maybe you go to 160, 165 would be the high end of your curve. And that's when it could be 14 degrees out if we're talking about right here where we are in Warren.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely, that's what the modulation will do. But we just want to make sure you look at, you know, all of what's going on throughout the whole house, and make sure you got the correct BTU in the space you're trying to get the BTU out.
Right. So, all right, so we got a couple of people that answered. We enter condensing mode at a 130 return. 130 return. So if we're going to figure that traditional 20-degree delta across the system, that's a 150 supply. Not 180.
Right.
Big difference.
So can I run baseboard at 150, Jim?
John, yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thanks for letting me know that.
Yeah, we can.
We can.
And we can throw some numbers at you about that too.
Yeah. So you just have to, again, know what you're working with, you know, brand X, Y, or Z, whatever it is that's hanging on the wall, you know, everything, you know, the rule of thumbs, right? The rule of thumbs really go out the window here a little bit, and you really have to do the math, because the old rule of thumb was standard baseboard, 600 BTU a foot. Yeah, if we're at 200 degrees, it might be
200 degrees.
It might be 600 BTU a foot. So by reducing the baseboard, I know you got the chart up there, just throw some numbers out of, you know, with 100, let's say start at 160.
All right, so if we're starting at 160, and we'll go with a 1 GPM, all right? So at 160 at the 3/4 board, that's 460 a foot. So really, we're thinking at higher temperature, we're 580 a foot, averaging 570 after we've gone around the, you know,
Right.
train. So here at 150 supply, I'm giving you, what did I say? 400, I'm sorry, yeah, 400 a foot.
At 150.
At 150.
So 150 out, 400 BTU a foot. So if the baseboard was grossly oversized, you know, if you're 10 to 20% oversized, you could reduce those temperatures.
Absolutely.
And make this boiler condense.
Absolutely. So that's where we're now going to be entering the condensing phase. I'm going to get 90. I want 95%. My return's got to be now where?
If you want 95% efficiency or above, you better have some radiant in that home in order to drive those temperatures down even further. If you get down in that 110 range, you know, baseboard will start to struggle. Standard baseboard, let me clarify. Standard baseboard, you know, usually convection happens at about 130 on standard baseboard, you know, in that range. So
your output drops to 276.
Exactly, right. So you're really not getting a whole lot. So again, knowing what you're hooking to, understanding how that's going to work when you start to turn these temperatures down is critically important to selling the right appliance for the application. So we could easily, you know, if we hook this to an air handler and we're turning those temperatures down, and it's a standard air handler that's looking for that high temperature water, we could be blowing cold air. It'll still be heating the home.
Right.
It's not cold air, but it doesn't feel good, right? So this is the you know, these are the hurdles that are out there that we have to know, understand, and look for to make sure that we're going to make that homeowner comfortable with this new piece of equipment.
Right. And that's not necessarily a major problem. It's not to make this appliance not the right appliance, but if Mr. and Mrs. Smith understand, I can get you more efficient than what you had, you're just not going to be at the top end efficiency because of what you currently have in the home.
Right.
As long as everybody's on the same page and understands, that's not a bad thing.
Right. Run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good with that. We're good with that. Okay. Where are we going, John?
But in that radiant home, if you did have a radiant home where you're, you know, maybe your output water is 110 degrees, then you're really going to be taking advantage of this boiler condensing and what that looks like.
Right. So that 95-90 return, there's your goal. There's your 95%.
Right. So we got a question: how do these things work with dual fuel, like a heat pump system? You know, as long as you have a controller that's going to transfer the signal over, it can work pretty much any way you want it to. You know, usually on the air side, you know, you're looking at that 17 to 22 degree range to where you know, this will be as efficient or more efficient than the electric heat pump side. So, you know, that may be a good transition point if you have a wall controller that has the ability to throw the signal off to something else, or you're using another device to throw the signal off to something else. You could run a heat pump for, I don't know, let's say 60% of your 60% of the time, and then you kick the signal to a condensing boiler for 40% of the time. You know, it depends on what the system is and exactly what your goals are with that new install.
It's going to depend on that envelope that you're in. I mean, if you've got a 1920s house, plaster and lath,
Right.
yeah, that might be something you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, we do that at my brother-in-law's house. He's heat pumped 90%, actually most of the winter, probably that 60% range, like you said. And then he's steam oil fired, and that will only kick on when we hit those Armageddon days, you
Right.
know. So, you know, he hasn't bought oil really in about 2 years. That's kind of been his method for like the past, God, at least 10 years.
Right.
You know, so yeah, that combination works. We can go down a road.
Yeah,
Of building combinations here, but yeah,
we're in
not
a
gonna do that now.
changing world
Yeah.
right now, so there are going to be a ton of different combinations. I mean, this is still a great option for boiler replacement, and I think it's going to be a viable option for still a period of time. But the market is definitely changing, and I think there's going to be a lot of systems out there where there are multiple options for how they're going to heat their home.
Right.
And we just want to make sure that if you're putting our products, our NTI products in, that you understand how they work, how they operate, and what they're going to deliver to keep that homeowner comfortable.
Right. So, okay, we've talked to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We've educated them. We've done our homework. We know what our potential is that we're going to deliver. All right, now you're going to ship the product's going to get there. Your team is there. We got to repipe.
Yep.
So if you're not familiar with how we're putting in a condensing boiler, you know, this is a primary, secondary type of system. So there's going to be some changes at the near boiler piping, right? The different controls on the boilers allow you to, you know, handle more circulators and different temperatures as if we're doing domestic hot water, right? So your team or yourself, if you're putting it in, what are the things we're looking for? Don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, you know, what is your method of making hot water, right? Is there a standalone tank there now? Is that going to stay? Do you want a combi? Do you want a indirect? You know, what does that look like? How are you making hot water? How are you going to meet the homeowner's expectations? Do they have a standard 2.5 gallon shower head? Do they have a 1.5 gallon shower head? Do they have a human car wash shower, you know, upwards of 15 to 30 gallons per minute? You know, these are all questions that you need to ask, you need to understand. So you're sizing your boiler correctly to support the hot water needs. Jim and I have this conversation all the time. It's always less expensive to buy storage than it is to buy BTU. So that's why understanding what the hot water needs and demands are is very important. And, you know, if they have those human type car wash showers, it may not be the best method to make it with a boiler. You know, you may want to have a standalone direct fired water heater that will meet the needs of that human car wash shower. So another thing to think about. So now we're going to take this boiler. This has an internal circulator. So that internal circulator, its only responsibility in life is to circulate the water across the closely spaced T's as needed. And then you'll have a circulator or multiple circulators, depending on the size of the boiler, that will distribute the water throughout the home. So in your near boiler piping strategy, if your old boiler is sitting here, you got a supply header that's here. Make sure you can see this, a supply header that's here and a return header that's here. And it comes up off the boiler this way. The return comes, you know, off and down.
Moose antlers.
You're going to cut those. Your moose antlers are out there. You're just going to take those two pipes, tie them together, and somewhere in the middle, you're going to take two closely spaced T's, no more than 4 diameters of pipe to the outside. And you're going to take the bowl of the T, and that's going to come to your boiler, and that's going to handle your primary, secondary piping. So we try to simplify that. We do a ton of classes that try to simplify primary, secondary, because really it hydraulically disconnects the system from the boiler, seeing each other. All right, they're connected piping wise, but to see the circulator flow in the system and for the boiler to see its own flow, that's why we do that primary, secondary with the closely spaced T's. Because all this boiler is worried about is how much water is going across the heat exchanger at any given time based on the BTU input. And all the system is concerned about is what size circulator is out here and am I supporting the BTU load of the home.
Fabulous. So if you're ever confused on, the 4 pipe diameters to making closely spaced T's, just do this with your hand, recreate that. There's your closely spaced T. You cannot mess that up. Right? Not a problem. Okay, fine. So near boiler piping, probably going to have to change. Got to make sure that the supply and return header is sized properly.
And the near boiler piping is sized properly, right?
That's correct.
Because a lot of these boilers, they come off with let's say a 1-inch takeoff, but the boiler is 150,000 BTU. Normally 1 inch doesn't have the ability to support 150,000 BTU. Usually that's 80,000 BTU. In an average comfortable world, it's 80,000 BTU. So you have to look at the manual to see if as soon as you come off the boiler, you need to increase that pipe diameter to support the BTU of the unit. Now we know in our world, majority of everything is 3/4 pipe, 1 1/4 inch pipe.
All day.
And that's great. But if we get boilers that are over, 150, 160, 180, 200,000 BTU, 1 1/4 inch pipe is not the answer, right? Because we just can't move enough BTU through it. It's rated for 140,000 BTU. So just things to keep in mind. We do root cause troubleshooting. We're on job sites all the time, and we always say, what's the roadblock? The boiler's 250,000 BTU, but I got 1-inch pipe coming out of it. There's my roadblock. I can't get the BTU out of the boiler. On Saturday, this boiler was cycling on, off, because the piping was the roadblock. The home was probably suffering because of the roadblock of the 1-inch pipe. I have plenty of boiler there.
Plenty of boiler.
But I just don't have the pipes to distribute that energy to the system. So these are all things you need to keep in mind when you're piping or repiping the system that's existing.
Right. We do these classes all the time on pipe sizing and pump sizing. If this is something that you're not comfortable with, reach out to us. We'll give you our contact at the end of this, but reach out. Always look to see where we're going to be, because we're getting out there live again, and we're out there in front of you guys at different wholesaler locations, and now starting again in our classroom. So if you need help with that, let us know and we'll help you. Okay, I've sized it right. Mr. and Mrs. Smith understand what I'm going to be able to deliver.
Yep.
And since we sized it right, we know maybe we have more baseboard than we need. We can run lower temperatures, still meet their demand. All right, so we're repiping it. Now, the last boiler was using room air.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. More than likely.
More than likely, and
Yep.
maybe there wasn't enough room air based on what really the BTUs were.
Yep.
These are different.
They are.
So I'm grabbing my combustion air. What am I doing?
Your best avenue here is an external source. Outside is best. Before we get into the venting portion, we do have a good question here. So I have a customer that has an 1888 built home with very large cast iron radiators in 2 zones and baseboard in the front porch zone. They have an existing Burnham cast iron boiler, 3 zones. Is condensing an option here? So believe it or not, cast iron radiators are a great system to hook a condensing boiler to. We have to address a couple of things, but this is how you want to look at a system. If I have a system with large mass, I'm okay going with a boiler with low mass, and I'm talking volume of water here, right? If I have a system with low mass, I probably want a higher mass boiler, because that's going to work as a quote unquote a flywheel, let's call it. So if I have this system that holds, I don't know, 75, 80 gallons of water, I'm okay with a boiler here that holds a half a gallon of water, because I'm primary, secondary, and I'm just going to be running in cruise control, putting that little bit of hot water into that system that's flowing at whatever rate it's flowing at. You have 3 zones here. And if we're able to lower the temperature because the cast iron radiators are oversized, that screams condensing boiler. Caveat here. I need to make sure the water is clean. I need to address the inside of the system before I put a condensing product in there. Whether it's water tube, fire tube, that doesn't matter here. Dirt is dirt, debris is debris. Debris is going to find the hottest spot in the system to collect against, which that's the crown sheet of a fire tube, and it's the waterways of a water tube. right where the heat gets transferred into the water. So yes, I would consider a condensing boiler for that application, but I would not consider it without some form of, chemical cleaning of the piping system. And I would absolutely, have at minimum the Taco 4900 mag dirt separator installed before the boiler returns water
yeah.
returns back to the boiler. And you would have to probably, for the first month or so of that boiler's operation, you'd have to do some blowing off of the debris that's going to be collected by those magnets in that system. But that's a very, very important component to going from a older system to a newer system, whether it's a black iron system, a copper system. Yes, it's good to flush it, but it's not going to have the amount of magnetite and everything else that an iron system would have. So critically important. And again, it's not just NTI, it's brand X condensing. You definitely need to clean that system.
Right. But those big cast iron radiators,
Love it.
that's poor man's radiant.
Oh, that's awesome.
We heat those babies up, they're
Yeah.
going to sit there and just keep, giving off heat even when the system is off. My God, your customers are going to hug you.
Well, unless they dry their socks on them and boots on them, they're not going to hug you so much then. But it's also nice where, if they have young children in the home, if we are running the outdoor reset curve here, those cast iron radiators are not going to be like touching a frying pan.
That's correct.
Coming off of the stove. So they're not going to be at those 180, 190 degree temperatures. They're going to be lower in temperature, which if a little child touches them, it's not going to impact them as much.
Right, right.
So,
but here's your chance to really educate the customer. I get the home. One of my kids bought a house from 1920 that was insulated with newspaper, and by making some adjustments in the home, changing some insulation, maybe suggesting, hey, side the home, get a Tyvek wrap around the house, can dramatically change the envelope that you're dealing with.
Vapor barrier, windows,
right?
Because that's a big deal.
NTI makes fabulous equipment, but it's all based on that envelope that you have to play with. And if we could see outside, then that's a challenge.
A problem.
That's a big
problem.
challenge.
Yeah. But that's a great question, and definitely you can definitely think about it there. So keep the questions coming. This is great.
Right.
So back to your, how's this thing breathing? Let's put it that way, right?
Right. So I got to bring in,
breathe good.
We got to bring in air for combustion.
We should.
Right.
Yeah, we really should. If we're talking 199,000 BTU boiler, we all see tractor trailers going down the highway, 253-foot long tractor trailers worth of air for 199,000 BTU boiler. That's what you need. My basement's not that big.
No.
So
mine is not either.
Yeah, and if these houses have that big of a basement, they may need a bigger boiler. So you really should just, get that air from outside, pick it up from a clean spot. Don't pick it up where the guy goes by with the weed whacker once a week in the summer and you're making hot water and we're pulling in all the dirt and debris and everything. We want to make sure, we're getting these in a good spot and we're getting good fresh air from outside so we have good, clean combustion.
All right. So that particular project, maybe that boiler's in the middle of the basement.
Could be.
Maybe you can't, maybe you have a basement that you barely have much outside wall. He literally could have dirt and rock.
Yeah.
Right? And something like that.
1888.
Yeah. So you may not have a lot of outside wall to punch through to get some fresh air. The other part of our webinar today is Centrotherm product. And let's say that is the scenario on this job, and I've got a chimney in the middle of the house. I could use that chimney as my air intake, right? And I can also use it as the exhaust if I got enough flue, right? But I could use it as my air intake, but I'm going to want to line that, Centrotherm makes a flexible product. They're the Blitz, right? And that could be my air intake.
Yeah, so we're not just going to take and plug into the chimney that's from 1888 and let the boiler pick up the air from within the chimney and God knows what's in there.
That's right.
We're going to take that all the way up to the exterior of the home and we're going to pick up the fresh air from outside, not just what's going to fall down the chimney and pick it up there.
All right, so we're going to need outside air for combustion. All right, so now we got to get the exhaust out.
We do.
If anybody's been on some of these webinars that I've done in the past, especially when I talked about venting at Centrotherm, I go crazy when it comes to making sure I've got the right product for the application. John is always about the right appliance for that right application. And when it comes to venting these type of products, it's the right product for that application too.
Before we get into that, does the unit have a filter screen? Not a filter screen. You get a bird screen normally that would go on the outside of the home.
Yeah.
We don't put a filter screen in there because really we don't have any way of monitoring how much debris has been caught in that filter. A lot of guys always bring up K&N as a big filter brand for, like, you know, desert racing and all that stuff where they're experiencing a lot of dirt and debris. But you would have to have that on, you know, a cleaning cycle. And, you know, we have a hard enough time getting guys out to maintain condensing boilers. If we put a filter on there, I think it would just create more of a problem than good. But we do give you the bird screens with the units.
Right.
And the reason we have Jim in a chair today, usually he's on a pedestal when he starts talking about Centrotherm, so we kept him in a chair.
Yeah, I get a little excited. All right, so we see this all the time, gentlemen and ladies. We really want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And I guess my shtick, or I should have it on my sweater, is, you know, picking the right material for your application. Somebody type in, or everybody, I'm going to pose another question to you. What temperature do you think your flue gas temperature is when I'm making 150 degrees? And I've designed my system. You've worked with John. You've designed your system at a 20-degree delta. All right, so I got 130 coming back. I am entering the condensing phase. All right, so we're going to make Mr. and Mrs. Smith happier. We're entering that condensing phase. What temperature do you think the flue gas is that's exiting the boiler? Because this is important. This is really going to dictate what material you should be using. All right. We know that there's
That's a loaded question by Jim too.
Oh yeah.
The temperature will be different if it's a brand new boiler, if it's a 1-year-old boiler, if it's a 5-year-old boiler that's never been serviced. That answer will be different. So
Yeah.
that's a moving target. There's a hint.
This man's very smart. He knows where I'm going.
There's a hint.
There is a hint there, yes.
Yeah.
I really want you to think about this, because any boiler manufacturer for condensing is going to give you multiple options on your venting.
No doubt.
PVC, CPVC, stainless steel, and polypipe.
ABS.
Right? Which one do I use? It depends on your application. And that's really important. They're all viable, but it depends on your application. So that last gentleman who's going to, you know, have the potential of doing for that older home a condensing product, he's probably going to be running at more of a higher temperature majority of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to see if anybody's got a number out there yet. Not yet. So just for the sake of time, I'll tell you. All right. So if I'm making 150-degree supply water temperature, my flue gas temperature, John, you've told me in the past, should be at least 20 degrees hotter. That's 170-degree flue gas temperature. All right, I think everybody can type this in. What is your temperature limits when it comes to PVC pipe? Because that seems to be the most popular material that people are using for venting.
160.
All right, Brian was pretty
That's
close.
pretty close.
All right, Brian.
140. Okay.
140.
Oh, there's 140 for the PVC temperature.
Right. All right, so Brian is on top of this.
No names.
Well, he says he's Brian.
He got him right.
Yeah, he says he's Brian. Yeah, yeah. He's actually got another name. All right. Anyway, so and if we do our research and ask any PVC manufacturer what is the temperature range for flue gas temperatures, they're going to tell you we don't have one, because that's not what that product's for. All right. That's for water. That's for just getting water, moving water from one area to another, getting rid of, wastewater, what have you. But the boiler manufacturers allow you to use that product if you stay within that temperature range. So if 140 is going to be our industry max, right? That means my supply water temperature is 120.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be. All right. I deal with absolutes. John's being very smart about this, saying could be. All right, but I'm doing this on purpose. So if I'm going to supply 120 as my high end, my PVC is allowable. It's good.
Jim, how am I taking a shower? How am I making hot water?
That's correct. That's
How am I making
correct.
hot water?
So that's something to think about. So if your hot water demand is even larger than your space heating, and we see that in our territory.
It's usually the driver of a
Yeah,
boiler size is hot water
yeah,
demand.
especially as we go along the coastline, the Jersey Shore, there's some huge domestic demands. That boiler throughout the year will be running more at high temperature than at that lower temperature. This is not the correct material. So think about this. You've been in jobs where maybe you're servicing this type of product, all right? These products are great. They're beautiful. It's an appliance look, all right? They're going to deliver that higher efficiency, but they do need service. They do need to be maintained.
Yes, they do.
All right? This is your Mercedes-Benz of a boiler, all right? So it does need some TLC. And you don't have to answer me, but you've seen some yellowing, browning of the PVC for exhaust. So what is happening? We are over-temping that pipe. It is not liking that temperature, and we're starting to see it break down. All right? I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to scare you. It's not the right application. All right? So if I'm going to be venturing into these higher temperatures, I need to have a different material. CPVC can handle higher temperatures. Stainless, you got no problem. Propane, oil, or natural gas, not a problem, but it gets expensive. All right, so we understand that. So the other part of our webinar today was Centrotherm for venting, and Centrotherm is making a product that is exclusively for venting. This is a poly pipe, Innoflu by Centrotherm. The rating for this type of product is 230 degrees. That's your flue gas temperature. To get that type of rating, I have to be able to handle 70 degrees higher than 230. So that means at 300 degrees, I am still working within the range of this type of product. It's not going to break down. At 302 is when it starts to soften. All right, so we want to use the proper material. So again, I'm going to go for the scare factor here. If I'm walking on a job, and John and I walk on a lot of jobs, and we do see the tanning. Gentlemen, that's not dirt.
It's tanning, all right.
It's tanning, all right, and it's starting to break down. So I've always said that the venting is the most important part of this system. If I'm going to propose this to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Smith want this type of product, fantastic. All right, can I vent it properly? And if I can't, I may have to offer them another alternative.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with offering another alternative. There's always good, better, best.
Right.
And that's a great way to go to market. There's some things you can cut back on. There's some things that you shouldn't cut back on. And a safety system, which a venting system is a safety system, you should not cut back on that. You know.
And I really don't want to hear from somebody, well, I got boilers in like this for 20 years. I've never had a problem.
Does. Everybody does. And there's furnaces going in every day. Everybody does. But it's the one that really gets you. And I want to go through my career in this industry knowing that we tried to do everything to the best of our ability.
That's correct. That's correct. So let's be very transparent. PVC prices went up, especially during COVID times and supply issues and everything. And the pricing was basically almost about dead nuts equal to Centrotherm type of product. We've seen the prices now start to dip. So there is a delta between these. So I'm not really concerned about that. I'm concerned about the right material for the right application. All right. And we're stressing that in a big, big way because it is a life safety part of the system. To me, the most important part of the system. Okay. Advantages to using this besides being the proper material, it is a quicker install.
Very fast.
It is much, much lighter. We're supporting it with really these C-clamp type of supports, a little bit of threaded rod. So when you're installing this type of product, I don't have to worry about that amount of weight. You will have projects where maybe you are in the middle of the basement and I have to get to an outside wall. Maybe the chimney is something we cannot use, because we do have a liner for that to run your flue gas through the chimney. But let's say it's collapsed. They're not going to do anything to fix the chimney and you're punching out the outside wall. You may have a long run. Well, when it comes to our product, as we put elbows and 45s involved into the install of the system, It's not a true 45, it's not a true elbow. I have built-in pitch. So I'm going to pick up that 1/4 inch pitch to make sure I've got the proper pitch for my flue gas.
Yeah, 87-degree elbow instead of a 90-degree elbow, so that guarantees you the proper pitch and that you need and everything. And then under 6-inch pipe, Jim's got a little coupler over here. I don't know if you guys can see that.
What are we doing?
There, just so they know the coupler and the juice.
Oh, yeah. So the other thing with this type of product is you're buying a 6-foot length, an 8-foot length. It's measured. What are we saying, Vic? You want me to jump up? Show it higher? People can't see it? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So this is the bell. This is the socket. We measure our length really from the socket this way. So one advantage we have over our competitors, they're measuring from the socket or the bell. No, we're measuring from the bottom of the socket out this way. So you want 6 feet. I'm getting 6 feet plus the socket. So you can cut this out in the field. You can trim it. You want to bevel it. All right. And that's done with just standard, knife, hacksaw, what have you. No big deal. There is I know somebody has told me there is a specific beveling tool that can make life easier for you. No glues or solvent, gentlemen. We have a gasket in here. So when we're putting this together, my 2, 3, and 4-inch most popular sizes, this is what you're going to play with this NTI boiler. Our elbow or our 45, we're also going to use a locking ring, which will just slide on here. Okay? You're going to get a lubricant. Can you say? I can never say that.
Yeah, lubricant.
You're going to get a lubricant. And I could use the lubricant. I could use water. I can use saliva. It doesn't matter. And all I'm going to do, hold it up. All right, Chris, hold it up, is put that lubricant on this gasket. What is the gasket here for? Expansion and contraction. Because if we heat up a pipe, whether it's with a gas or with water, it's going to grow. It's going to expand. So I need to take up that expansion. Once I have my lock ring on and I've put the lubricant on, I am basically pushing it down, locking it in. There's the click. I'm done. I could fire the boiler right now.
You fire the boiler right now.
All right, John, any issue if I fire the boiler once I glue up some PVC or CPVC? What do I got to do?
Well, Jim, I have seen a bottom of a boiler come off before because of the PVC gases that were left in the combustion piping and the fresh air piping. So yeah, if you really dive into it and bore yourself to death and start reading the wait time, you're probably upwards of 24 hours wait time on a PVC system, which none of us have that much time.
Right.
So this goes together easy. It's light. This is a locking safety to make sure that, if you have a significant start, as we refer to them, the pipe, it's going to stay together. There's a lot of force here that'll hold in the system. So it's definitely a better venting system. But, again, we've spoken with manufacturers, we've spoken with inspectors, we've spoken to distribution channel, we've spoken to contractors. We've gone through the whole realm of this, and, until either inspectors step up and say, this is the proper venting product, which in New York City, it's the proper venting product now.
New York
due
State?
to some codes, New York State, due to some codes, mostly the city, but
Right.
Due to some codes. But, they're always going to give you that option of the PVC because it does work in some applications. But if you're unsure of what temperature you're going to run a system at, this is just a better option, a safer option.
And John said a key word, system. So you're buying and putting together a venting system. This is what this is for. I am not moving water through here. This is not a waste type of pipe. This is for flue gas. This is a system. So the boiler is a system. The boiler is making the heat. Your piping is your delivery system. We're the takeout guys. We're going to get that water to move through the system properly, not a problem. But now I'm using a venting system.
And question is, can I take that pipe apart? Yes, you just got to pry this out. And
Flathead screwdriver will
I
pop
have
that
a
up.
screwdriver right here, but that'll pop out, and then this will come right back out, and everything is reusable.
Right.
So if you don't have the right dimension that you're looking for and need to recut, you can do that.
Right.
And reuse it.
FYI, if you're going back months or years later, you're gonna have to spray some water down in here to loosen up that lubricant that you put in here, because it's not gonna move, all right? So we spray some water in here, it'll loosen up, and then it'll be easy to be able to back it out again, so you can do whatever you need to do, if you need to repipe it or whatever.
So this is our starter end, and if you're using NTI boilers, we have an opportunity for PVC. We also have an opportunity for polypropylene. Our Centrotherm will fit directly into it, but there are a lot of appliances where you would need a appliance adapter to get you from the PVC size to the Centrotherm polypropylene, and we have a whole list of adapters that will go to, you know, any of our products. We're the ATI A.O. Smith guys, so we have an adapter that goes from the tankless unit to Centrotherm. Again, with NTI, you don't need the adapter. We have a slot right in the exhaust port that will accept Centrotherm.
Right. So the question was, one would assume that if it's a low mass system like copper tube baseboard, that would require a higher flue temperature, and it would require this product. I don't disagree, but
It depends.
it depends. Well, I love that
It
statement
depends.
because that is gold.
Yeah, because if they had oversized baseboard in there, we can drive the temperature down.
Right.
Right. But if so, let's go back the other way. Like I said earlier, let's say you do walk down the basement and you take the cover off the aquastat, and they are running 200-degree water because they have insufficient baseboard and they had insufficient heat at one time, so they had to turn the temperature up. That would be the scenario where, yeah, you're going to run that boiler at full capacity, and we're going to want a better venting material
Right.
that will handle those higher temperatures.
Yeah, it will depend. I mean, I'm running a lower temperature system in my home, and I'm not doing it with condensing because venting was going to be a problem in my home. You know, so I'm not. But yeah, but majority of the time, 150 is going to heat my home. All right, because I do have twice the amount of baseboard they have. So every job will be different. You know, that's what you have to. That's what John alluded to in the beginning. What am I going to do first? We're going to see if we can make this boiler sing by doing that heat loss.
Right. And just go back to your house for a second.
Yes.
You didn't go around the house and add baseboard.
No.
You went off of what was there.
Right.
And you did a heat load calculation on room by room to see exactly what you needed. And that's what drove you to, I can heat this home with a 150.
Yeah.
Right. No alterations were made except maybe, you know, windows, doors, vinyl siding, Type R wrap, whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you made the envelope more efficient. The baseboard stayed the same. That allowed you to drive the temperature down and give the homeowner the same comfort with a lower fuel cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a synopsis of what we've been talking about here for an hour, is look at the whole thing and find the right approach to get that homeowner the most efficient system as possible. And you will never have to advertise again if you're able to do that, because the word of mouth will spread, and the amount of money they're saving is a big deal. I mean, especially today, if it's an oil system, I mean, you're upwards of $6 a gallon for oil. That's a big deal if you can save 10% on a year's worth of
Right.
of oil usage.
Now, you've heard me say this before, and if you've met me in person, my goal is to make you as whole as possible. My goal is to help you grow your business and make money. That's John's goal all the time, too. One of the things that a lot of contractors are missing when they put in a beautiful product like this NTI boiler is the service aspect of it. All right? This is a finely tuned machine. It needs maintenance. So if we nail our install right up front and our venting is correct right up front, you may only have to come back every 2 years to do a boiler inspection. All right? If your inspection shows that you've got more, what do we want to call that? The coffee grinds in there.
Yeah, you're condensing.
You're condensing, and we're seeing some leftover or waste products from the condensing, and you have to clean that out more often, then that's on a yearly basis. This is not a bad thing, gentlemen. This is a good thing.
Keeps you in the house.
This keeps you in the house, but it also gives you the opportunity to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, all right, we've got the potential of savings here. This is what it's going to cost for the install, and we need to come back yearly to maintain it for you. Service agreement.
Service agreement. And on that note, again, with this controller, with the Wi-Fi, if you're using the Wi-Fi, you can program this in to email the homeowner and it'll tell the homeowner that her boiler is due for service or his boiler is due for service. You know, kind of like if you, I don't know, if you have a BMW or whatever. I have a Chevy and I got a flat tire the other day and I got a phone call from the dealer that says, hey, you know, OnStar or whoever it was told them I got a flat tire. And I'm like, oh, great. You want to come fix it? But, you know, it was done already. But, you know, that's what goes on here. Now you have the technology in a boiler. So you're not having a person in your office making phone calls after phone calls after phone calls trying to set up these maintenance agreements and services. The boiler will actually tell you and them when it's due to be serviced.
Right. So the hardest part about growing your business is getting out of the truck. All right? Because if you can't get yourself out of the truck, you can't get out there and, you know, look for jobs, sell jobs. You know, we're telling you to do all this stuff. This takes time. It takes time. And we know that you don't have a lot of time. But if we're gonna grow and if we're gonna promote high efficiency, we have to give that type of time. So if I'm gonna get you out of the truck, that means, let's say I do 20 of these a year and I get 10 service contracts. Well, after a while, it's going to build up. Now I have a tech that I've hired, and that's what he's going to do. That's his job. He's making money for you.
Yeah, not only that, when you go to sell your business, you know, they're not buying used vans and used tools. They're buying a true service contract customer list, not just a customer list of people that you have done work for, maybe once, twice, 5 times, but they're getting a service contract list, which makes your company more valuable.
Right.
So
that ability for the boiler to generate, hey, it's my birthday, I need to be serviced.
look at me.
Look at me.
Look at me. It's
Look
my
at me.
birthday.
It is a great thing. And John and I are kind of the same, but I am older than John, but we've raised our family, and now our families are buying houses, right? They're having their kids, they're buying houses, and they need, or they want, or your customer base wants one person to call.
That's it.
When they have an issue. So if I'm setting myself up as the efficiency guy, the energy comfort guy, and the service guy, and I'm servicing what I put in, I sleep better at night, right?
Makes your life easier. Makes your life easier. You're working on stuff. You're working on stuff that you're familiar with. You don't have to go and, you know, service the world, as I call it, and see a different product every single day. If you start to write service contracts, if you do 20, 30, 40, 50 boilers a year, think about that. After 5 years, you got 250 boilers out there. You're now servicing stuff that you installed.
Yeah.
You know it's installed correctly. You know you don't have a lot of service problems because it's installed correctly. And when your guy walks up to it, oh, I know what this is. We put this in, you know, 5 years ago, and we're still putting them in today.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy.
From what I've been told, there's a lot of consolidation out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been told, if a contracting company's got that 300 mark of service agreements, they become attractive to somebody to want to buy them. All right. You know, so unless you've got kids in the family that are going to take over the business,
Mm-hmm.
which would be a beautiful thing, but it's time to move on, I've got something to sell, you know.
Great question we got. Has to do with starting off of a appliance, and I'm going to call this behind me an appliance and other appliances. The depth here may not be deep enough for some appliances. And with the NTIs, we give you, with every product, we give you a starter. And majority of the products out there, the appliances out there, want some type of a distance from the appliance, a straight run for a certain distance before you can put an elbow or a 45. So just be aware of what product you're working with and what that minimum distance is. There's not a lot of appliances that want a 90 coming directly off of the top. And a lot of that has to do with the ability of the blower and also with the flue gases. And if I put this directly off the top of a boiler, the core of my flue gas is the hottest. And it would come up, it would hit the surface of this elbow, PVC, polypropylene, whatever it is. So it would experience hotter temperatures at that point before it would turn it and send it. What this does is this gives it a little bit of time to get its flow pattern correctly. And there's your inner core, your secondary air, and then your tertiary air. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the air to come up smoothly and make that 90-degree bend smoothly, so we can keep the core of the flue gases, which is the hottest, in the center of the pipe. That's what we're trying to do here. When they tell you what that minimum distance is off of their appliance before you go to an elbow, a 45, a 22, whatever that bend is. So great question. Appreciate it.
Right. So one of the things that we look for at Wales Darby when we're looking for manufacturers, or manufacturers come courting us to represent their product, we look at the depth of the company. What are they offering? Is this a product that fits within our system mode of selling product? Because obviously, we're talking about condensing boiler today with NTI and the venting system with Centrotherm. We're the takeout guys. We're going to be able to move the water through there. We want to see how much backup a company can deliver. So NTI's got really good service department, tech department, I should say. We've got 7-day-a-week access.
After-hour access.
After-hour access. All right, so this is something to take advantage of. If we're going to use the Wi-Fi capability on that boiler, all right, with your tech on the job or you on the job, if there's an issue and it is set up via Wi-Fi, NTI can get on and see exactly what you're seeing at the boiler. So if there is an error code happening or having some difficulties figuring out what's going on, the NTI tech, again, if you're set up on Wi-Fi, can see what you're seeing and help in that process. Having access to somebody on Saturdays and Sundays, I think would be a good thing.
Yeah, pretty important.
Pretty important, because we do get asked, hey, can I get a hold of you on a Saturday? Well, it depends.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're around, I mean, I pick up if I'm around, but I'm not always around. And they do have some pretty unique products too. We have, I might be the only one in the industry, but we have a TRX like this mounted to a hydrocoil, and it has like a hot air system. It's like a hydrocoil with a boiler all in one that makes hot water. So really neat appliance. You can also put an A coil off the top of it. So we were doing a bunch of condo type jobs with those, where we're giving them 3 ton-ish of air conditioning, 80,000 BTU of hydro heat, and then an opportunity to put a zone of radiant or baseboard on there also.
Right.
So a lot of unique things there. Not give a warranty if you have a 90, but I am good. Install NTI only. Oh wow, appreciate that. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. We got a gentleman on here saying he's a big NTI installer and must be having good luck with it, because he said that's the only product he is currently using. That was not a Wales Darby employee or NTI employee that wrote that, but that is a great note that was sent in, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. So I mentioned this earlier. Our winter webinar series is really talking about high efficiency systems. This whole series is about high efficiency. We could go down, we could talk for hours right now just with this product on, melding it into, different heat emitters, whether it's panel rads, baseboard, hot water coils, radiant, marrying it with a heat pump system, so we really encourage you to tune in for the next coming webinars, because we're going to go into all these different products that we represent on all these different type of systems. So if you're good.
I'm pretty good. If there's any questions you want to throw them out there, please do. We are, again, mobile, so and we are hosting classes here.
Mobile, agile.
We are mobile, agile, adjustable. Yeah, we're out and about. So we are also hosting classes here in our office in New Jersey, and also at our Long Island office. So if you're close to us and you need something, we'll be happy to host it here. We did downsize our studio dramatically. Jim felt creative one day and built out, not sure what it is he built out, but it works, and it's great. And so now we are we're mobile and portable and hosting in-house. So we have hit the training road hard, and we've built out some additional hands-on classes. So please look at our website. You'll see a bunch of stuff listed on there, and we're adding more daily, basically.
All right, so you can go to walesdarby.com, click on our training tab. You'll see where we're going to be. I just looked over at our director of marketing. All right, so you'll see where we're going to be. If you want more information, you need to contact us for some technical help. It's DePalma at walesdarby.com. It's jresso at walesdarby.com. This is what we do. We want to help. We want to make sure that we're making you guys whole. We're making you profitable, and that you can grow your business. Next week on the 15th will be electro products. So another opportunity to deliver comfort with electric boilers, electric air to water heat pumps. All right, Anthony Tassi, Rick Coster, and the guys from Electro will be on that webinar. So if you guys don't have any other questions, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you down the road, right?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And ladies, appreciate it.